Thank you so much, Kobe. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us again this morning for our math session. My name is Tapita. For those who are joining us for the first time, I will be teaching maths for grade 6. I hope you are all ready with your workbooks, pens, and calculators so that we can be able to go ahead and start with the lesson for today. All right, so yesterday and the day before we learned about whole numbers division. All right, so we learned about long division method, and yesterday we did the clue word method. All right, so today we're doing something totally different. We're doing decimals. All right, so by the end of this lesson, you should be able to do fifths and tenths and hundredths, decimal place values. Should be able to round decimal numbers. All right. Um, all right. Decimal place values. All right. The decimal point separates the whole numbers from the fractional part of a number. All right. You'll be able to see this on the next slide. Right. In a whole number, the decimal point is all the way to the right, even if it is not shown in a problem. All right. All right. So here, the decimal number. Right, this is what we were talking about on the previous slide. All right, decimal number is often used to mean a number that uses a decimal point followed by digits that show a value smaller than 1. Right? Any number that follows after the decimal point, you must remember that it is smaller than 1. Right? We'll do the decimal place values just now. All right, if you're looking here on the screen, we have 45.6, right? So here we have 4 representing the tens because it is 40, and 5 representing the ones or the units because it is less than 10. And here we have tenths, right? Because it is after the point and it is less than 1, so it is the tenth. This side is the one that we were saying it is the fractional number. All right, it is the fraction, it is represented by the fractional number. All right, so also if you're looking on this side, we have 17.591. All right, so you have here 1 representing the tens, which is 10, and 7 the ones, which is the units, which is less than 10. Right, so as we are saying, anything that is after the point or the decimal point, it is less than 1. All right, we'll see that when we're doing the rounding off. All right, so here, this 5 after the point, this is how the place value takes part. All right, it starts with the tenths, the hundredths, and then the thousands. Right, on your fractions, if you have, let's say, if you have 100 over, or rather 9 over 100. All right, if you have 9 over 100, that would be 0.09. That is why the second place value is called the hundredth. If you have 9 over 100 in fractions, you will have 0.09. All right, and the 9 will represent the hundredth because it is 2 digits after the point. If it is 1 number after the point, it is the tenths. If it is 3 numbers after the point, then it represents the thousands. All right, like here, you're given the example. If you see here, it's 1 over 10, and then 1 over 100, and then 1 over 1,000. That basically means that these are the place values, starting from the 5, the 9, and the 1, right? Unlike on your left-hand side with the 17, all right? With the 17, as you move to your left, it gives you bigger numbers. But after the decimal point, as you move to your right, it gives you the bigger numbers. However, any number that is after the point, it is lesser than 1, right? And it says here it is 10 times smaller, right? So after the point, after the decimal point, these numbers are 10 times smaller than the numbers on the side, or these numbers on the left. They are 10 times bigger than the numbers on the right. All right. So as you can see here at the bottom, you have here the hundreds, the tens, the ones, then we have our point, then we have the tenths, and then we have the hundredths, which is here 1/10 and 1/100. All right, so let us move on to our next slide. Right here on this table, we have 1/10, 2/10, 3/10, 4/10, 5/10, 6/10, 7/10, 8/10, 9/10, and we have 1. Right? Remember, we said anything that is after the point, it is less than 1. So as we have said that 1/10 or 1/10 represents 0.1, right? And then the second one is 0.2, still less than 1, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, 0.6, 0.7, 0.8, 0.9, and you have a whole number here, which is 10/10. Remember, any number that is divided by itself, that number equals to 1, right? Any number that is divided by itself, that number equals to 1. So here we have 1.0. We have 1.0. Okay, so we have the whole number, which is 1. All right, so let us move on to our next slide. All right, so here we have the tenths and hundredths. Right, the minute, you must also notice on the wording, right? The minute you notice the tenths and the hundredths, then you must know that those numbers, if you are given, say, a word sum, so then you must be able to know that once they use these terms, then it is the numbers after the point, or rather the decimal point. Once they use tenths, because any number before the point, it's tens, it's hundreds, not hundreds or tenths, but it is tens and hundreds. But after the decimal point, it's tenths, it's hundredths, right? I hope you are taking note of that. All right, so here we have 4.67, right? So this number is a decimal fraction. It has two parts. The whole number is 4, and the decimal fraction is 0.67. All right, if it were in a fraction form, it would be 4, and then would have 67/100. It will be a mixed fraction. We'll have a whole number, which is 4, and we'll have 67/100. All right. And remember, we said that the numbers after the point, they represent the decimal fraction. Okay. Move on to our next slide. All right. Soon, this is going to be your turn. All right. We are going to do an exercise. All right. Here, the place values of the number 1,328.1095 are shown below. All right. So I want you to take a look at the place values that I've just noticed. Sorry, that I've just said on the previous slide. You see here on the first number before the point, we have 8, right? That's the ones because it's less than 10 for the units. And here we have 2 representing the representing 20, and that's the tens, right? And we have 3 representing the hundreds, which is 300, and that's the hundred. And here we have 1 representing the thousand, and it's the thousands. Now, if we move after the decimal point, the first number after the decimal point is 1, and here it is tens. You see the difference, tens and tenths. All right, and we have 0, and here it's the hundreds. And we have the 9, it is the thousands, and we have the 5, it is the 10,000. So anything that is after the point represents the decimal fraction, or rather the fraction. So we must always remember that this number, sorry, any number after the point represents the decimal fraction. So in word problems, you will be asked to translate numbers from English. The word "and" is where the decimal point will go, right? Move to the next slide so we'll be able to see what we're talking about. All right, so in word problems, you will be asked to translate numbers from English. The word "and" is where the decimal point will go. Right here you have 58. You write it as in this form, 5 and 8. And you have 100. Remember, 100, 25,000. So that basically means that there's a point, there's no number that's before that point, it's 0.125. Right? So as I've said that in word sums, you will be given such numbers, so you must be able to look at the wording that is used so that you will be able to write the exact numbers that are required when you're asked to translate the number. Okay? And here again you have 125,000. You have 125,000. All right, let us remember to obey the class rules. Please switch off your cameras, switch off your videos, otherwise you will be kicked off and you won't be able to join until tomorrow. All right, so this is how you will write it. You will write 100. Remember we said when you add the word "and," that is where the decimal point will go, right? When you see the word "and" in decimal fractions, sorry, in decimals, and you're given word problems, when you see the word "and," then you must know that that is exactly where the point will go, right? So you have 125,000. So you will write your 100.025. It's 3 digits because it is representing the thousands. So you write 025, right? And then you have 11 and 300. 11 and 300. So you write the number 11, place your point, your decimal point, and then you write 03 because it says 300. 300, and you must always remember that these numbers will be 3 over 100. But in decimal fractions, you will have to write them as 03. Okay. So the last one is 6,040 and 9 tenths. Right? 6,040 and 9 tenths. So this is how you write it. You write the 6,000 and you write 40. Remember, there's no 6,040 because now we're dealing with decimals. So the end, when you're given the word problems, it only represents the decimal point. So you're given 6,040 and 9 tenths. So you will write 6,040.9. Remember, there's no ones after the decimal point. It starts from tens, the hundredths, and the thousands. Okay, there's no ones. So the 9 represents the tens. Okay, so let us move on to our next slide. Right here, we'll be dealing with rounding decimal numbers. All right, when rounding decimal numbers, we first look at the number place you are asked to round to. You first look at the number place you are asked to round to. All right, then look at the digit number just to its right. You look at the number that is next to the number that you are asked to round off, right? If that digit is smaller than 5, then you are not going to round up, okay? Then you are not going to round up because the number is smaller than 5, right? If the number is 5 and above, like 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, then you can round up, okay? Then you will be able to round up. All right, so rounding decimal numbers. All right, it says here round 2.13 to the nearest tenth. One decimal place, or you can write 1dt, which means one decimal place, right? So step one is you underline the digit in the given place. Underline the digit in the given place, right? So we're looking at the 2, but still you're rounding decimal numbers. So you have 5.73 to the nearest tenth, one decimal place. All right, so the first step is underline the digit in the given place, which is the tenth, right? Because it says here to the nearest tenth, right? We're rounding to the nearest tenth. So the first step is underline the digit in the given place, which is the tenth. Then step is you circle the number to its right. The number that is on the right of 7 is the number 3, so you circle number 3, right? So step number 3, you check is the number less or more than 5, right? So 3 is less than 5, so the digit is the given place, in the given place remains the same. Remember we said if the number is less than 5, you do not round up, but if it is 5 and above, then you will round up. So as you have circled the number 3, you notice that it is less than 5. Then you have 5.7 because 3 is less than 5. Then the number will be less than 5 because you are rounding to the nearest 10. All right, so you're rounding down. Basically, you're rounding down if it's less than 5 and not rounding up. So step 4, when rounding decimals, delete all digits to the right of the given place value. By delete, it means that you remove those numbers. You had 5.73, then you rounded to the nearest tenth, then you are left with 5.7. Okay, right. Rounding when 9 is the digit in the given place. So rounding decimal numbers, all right, you round 5.96 to the nearest tenth. Step 1, you do your underlining the number that you're supposed to round off to, and then step number 2 is the number on the right of that number you're supposed to round up. And step number 3, you look, is the number less or more than 9? Sorry about that, 7. Is the number less or more, is this number less or more than 5? Then you are able to see, okay, it is less than, sorry, it is more than 5, it is 6. So in this case, yes, in this case, remember we have 9.9, sorry, 5.96. We have 5.96. So we're rounding off to the nearest tenth. And when you see that the number on the right to the number that you're supposed to round off to is also over than 5. So you basically, this is going to be 10, right? But you can't write 10 here. So this number will have to move over the point to your left. So you'll basically have 6, right? So you have 9 plus 1, because remember you are rounding off the 6, then you are rounding it up, so the number will be 10. However, you can't write 10 because it is now, if you write 10 after the point, it will mean that now you have lowered the tens, right? However, it moves to the right. Now it moves to the right. It is going to be a 1.0. So when it is a 1.0, it means that you're going to add that 1 to the 5. So you will have 5 plus 1, and you will have 6. All right. So when you're rounding off 5.96, the number on the right to the digit that you're rounding off, it is 9. So it is close enough to move to the left. And if you're rounding off, it means now when you're rounding this off, it's going to be 10. However, the 10, the 1 will have to come this side, and you'll be left with 0 this side. So you will have 6.0. That is how you round off to the nearest tenth when you have such numbers. All right. Let us move on. So now
Teacher, please, sorry for the interruption, but can you please just verify your audio? Please be patient. I am trying to figure out what is happening. I will get back to you guys just now. Hang in there. We will resume the class shortly. Ladies and gentlemen, learners, you might notice that we are experiencing a technical difficulty here. Please may I ask that you be patient. We are trying to resolve the issue, and we will be back with you very shortly. Thank you. Remember, keep your mics and your videos switched off. Thank you. Okay, learners and parents, I really truly apologize for this issue that we are experiencing here. May I please ask you all to rejoin us tomorrow at the same time, same code, same place. We will be cancelling the balance of this lesson for today. It looks like we are not going to be able to resolve the problem in the next couple of minutes. Thank you very much for understanding. Thank you for your patience. And again, our apologies for this inconvenience. But we'll see you guys again tomorrow. Bye-bye. Have a wonderful day. Remember, stay home and stay safe.